Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the desk here on the Unified Proving Ground Circuit. My name is Travis C. I'm joined here with Smats and Mura. And Mura, Smats, we just got done watching game number 1 between GG Academy and Wildcard, and things started going in the favor of Golden Guardians Academy pretty fast there.
Yeah. LCS lock-in is just a boot camp for the real tournament, which is right now, right? This is where the results really matter for them. This is the important one.
I like your storyline. It's more. It's becoming less of a pit stop. It's actually going farther away from the pit stop now.
Yeah.
LCS teams, just good practice. Just good practice for the real competition for them.
Real copium conversation.
That's one thing we're skilled at here in North America, okay? But I do want to go ahead and turn around and look at some of the replays that we do have in regards to what ended up happening to make that go in favor of Golden Guardians. And there was one moment in particular that started us going, oh no, over here on the desk with our first replay that we have about some unfortunate stuff that happened at the Rift Herald.
So for Wildcard, this is the first real play that they tried to make. It's at 8 minutes. It's at Rift Herald spawn. They have this Corki. Honestly, it's really surprising the Golden Guardians are even trying to get Rift Herald against a Corki team. But the fact that they are able to zone Strompest out after he goes for the engage, and then the most tragic moment of all, the Rift Herald turns slightly to the right, and Stixay steals it with a Mystic shot at 1100 HP, so it can't even smite it away for Griffin. Really tragic for them. They try to combat this Rift Herald with the Skorky. It should be winning for them at this stage of the game. That is just way too broken. But they don't end up getting it. It's stolen away from them. And this is where things really start to panic because their team composition is pretty built around early game for the most part, especially their bottom lane, which they did bring up for this play.
Yeah. And speaking of things that were tragic, we did have some mourning that happened over here from Mura. As we go into our second replay, there was some unfortunate things that happened as the game continued on forward. Off the back of that Rift Herald, Mura, if you would.
Oh yes, I play a lot of top lane. My brothers, I see them walking up to this car crash. Oh no.
The trauma is coming right back at you.
Tony is unhappy right now, and if we take a look at the top lane, Alarm, brother,
Also
it's
unhappy.
okay. Play safe top. It's fine, Copium can win, guys.
It's like you just want they're seeing these juicy waves hitting the towers. It's like, yes, I can get it, I can do it, and then
Can't help yourself sometimes.
Can't blame them. But things continue to go on to this trajectory after the top laners got a little bit of a unfortunate greed equals feed moment, and then they switch things around, and Golden Guardians, they turn things up a tempo yet again. We have another replay here. Smats, GG, they were looking to say GG's in chat off at the back of this fight.
Unfortunately, it does feel like Wildcard ended up having a little bit more copium than the Golden Guardians.
It's like a meshing system.
It is, it's like 80% over here, 90% over here, just a little bit more. We don't actually get to watch this one, but if you'll remember, the third Drake fight ended up being really, really solid for Golden Guardians, and I think their team fighting ended up being really solid. I think their backline, especially Stixay and Ryoma, on these poke champions, really long range, ended up being the stars of the show for me. Their positioning and usage of terrain as well, super smart. There were a bunch of fights actually where they actually showed this off, and I think because of this, their DPS was just unmatched, and the frontline engagers of Wildcard weren't able to breach that gap over all the poke, especially the Sleepy Trouble bubble, and actually get there to even the odds.
Yeah, the amount of poke that was landing there should have been illegal, honestly.
Yeah,
those battle stars and mystic shots were a bit. Ooh, I felt bad looking at how they were hitting, especially for the Kaisa, who had a very unfortunate game. But talking about the end of the game, we do have a graphic to show how things went about, and here we are at the stats here, and you can see GGA, they never lost control of the lead, at least when it came down to gold.
That damage chart is what exactly I was talking about with the Zoe and the Ezreal too. Their damage was really piling on to all the members of Wildcard in that game from the get-go as well. The laning phase was really solid, especially for Stixxay. I think he was my biggest highlight player. I was expecting a lot out of Ryoma, but for Stixxay, you know, the guy who coming in from the coaching position, I didn't expect him to be this on form. But you know, like I said, the warm-ups and LCS lock-in seems to be paying dividends. He's back on form for sure.
Yeah, and Mira, you were talking quite a bit about the top lane matchup between the Camille Shen too. Like looking at it, it's like, yes, Alorum has a good counter matchup for him, but we got to see the end result of it, right? The Shen didn't get to have the idea, the lofty dream that they had was quickly brought down to reality, right?
So yeah, there's this also idea. Even if your champion has a insane counter matchup against the other champion, sometimes it's really also dependent on your team comp. And in this game, it's really hard for Shen to fit in a good place in fights and actually be a useful part of the team. Even if he has an insane 60 CS lead above Camille, it's not enough to actually make an impact on the game because it's really hard for him to enter fights against Zoe, Ezreal, Karma. And eventually Camille will just outscale.
Yeah. And you can even see how the draft ended up panning out right here on the screen here, seeing how all these champions lined up. And yeah, this Zoe Ezreal, man. Like you were talking about the CS differential there, Mira. The Ezreal had a insane CS differential in their favor, plus some kills to back it up.
Might make the game a little bit harder for Shen when Ezreal has a machine gun attached to his forearm. It
might have been more like a bazooka, honestly.
Bazooka.
Shots hurt.
Yeah. A whole arsenal there for sure. He had like full build way before anybody else as well for Stixxay. And just to highlight the bot lane matchup a little bit more, I wanted to take a look at some really cool heat maps that we got from MacroHeart, our graphics people. If you take a look at these, you can actually see so the red is where they were most often in the first 15 minutes. You can see Stixxay, alongside Chime, of course, are pushed up a whole lot in this lane for the majority of it, and Manui is spending most of this game underneath his own tower. Really tragic for the Wildcard bottom lane, who are playing this counter matchup here for Manui on this Kai'Sa against Ezreal. Traditionally a very solid matchup. Now, Ezreal's got some new toys, of course, in Season 12, so maybe the counter matchup isn't quite what it once was in its heyday. But regardless, Kai'Sa and Rakan are definitely meant to be the aggressors in this lane. And I think they really shot themselves in the foot with this matchup because they didn't play around it from the jungle, from the get-go. They didn't really path towards this lane. As you can see from this heat map, they weren't really able to push up very far, very often. And I think moving forward, if Wildcard are to ban away the majority of the AD carry pool, they really do need to think about what they're leaving open in the bottom lane for Manui and how that matchup is actually going to go. Because I don't think they really used the Kai'Sa into Ezreal matchup to its fullest extent. That was one of the main examples of it in the lane.
And I just want to make sure, is that heat map just showing where the champions were specifically?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
for
cool.
the first 15 minutes, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, they were holding on to the tower like, don't let go, never let go.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard. I mean, we talked about it. I even brought up a point where I was just like, yo, maybe they got the Shen Marine going on, you know, like these champions go in and it could be really cool. And the idea, I get it. But game number 2, I want to pick y'all's brains to see what exactly y'all would like to see going into game number 2 here. We'll start with you, Mira. What would you like to see going into this matchup?
Insane. I want to see Irelia, Camille, Fiora, top lane. Come on. Gonna see Shen, Tom Kench, Malphite again.
Yeah. I mean, I did warn you. It is Allura. That's sort of just what he does. So
Allure him.
You know,
come on.
The spicy
we've got
Sejuani's
Tony-
coming. Don't
Tony's
worry.
playing
My
Camille.
ADHD. I can't watch this. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch how jungle matchups affect the lanes again. Because
Okay,
I
for sure.
think I'm not sure exactly where the jungler path to this game, but I wondered if it had any effect on why Ezreal became a serial killer in the mid game.
Yep. The bright, beautiful blonde face. It's all, you know, he's very murderous behind those big blue eyes, you know.
I feel like my desk is rewriting Ezreal lore right in front of my very eyes. That being said, we're getting out of those behind blue eyes. We're going over to the beautiful voices of Dia and Rudu. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, guys, for the wonderful setup. And, well, as we wait to jump into the draft for just a second, the Aurelia Fiora Camille days surely ahead of us, Rudude.
Definitely.
Yeah. I am.
This series in particular.
I'm excited. I'm excited about those matchups. And of course, the fact that they're going to happen on the Rift right now. But I'm also very interested in what Smack said about setting up Wildcard for success and thinking about how their bans on AD carries affect not only Stixxay but also Manui in the long run, because that was something that, well, it maybe wasn't the highlight of this game instantly, a lot of this coming off Ryoma in the mid game. Stixxay was still absolutely terrifying, and if you look at this game and you sort of remove Ryoma, you keep the highlights away from him, you still see a very strong AD carry that I'm sure we're going to see again in Game 2.
Yeah, I mean, Ezreal either just hits the ban table or we see something completely different from these AD carries. Obviously, it was a triple ban from Wildcard down into that bot lane. They've immediately switched it up, got rid of that Karma, so Chime isn't going to be able to pilot that one once again. But GTA sticking to the red side, Caitlyn bans, which I sort of expect to see throughout once again. Have to see if that continued oppression of the bot lane continues, or if Golden Guardians are going to stick to their Rise Tahm Kench ways here. Obviously being on the red side there, slightly more gate-kept by their liberty to ban away specific champions against specific players.
Right now, the Aphelios and I would say likely the Jinx to follow through for wildcards, since I don't expect that there were any particular problem champions from last game. It was more of a playstyle thing that happened, as you and I talked about a little bit earlier on in the game, that snowballed wildly out of control. Wildcard thinking about whether they want to take away the Jinx or not. They're actually going to opt for the Zoe. Interesting. So you like this?
I do. I mean, Ryoma was just absolutely styling. And if you're going to be able to take it into Corki comfortably, those heat maps as well, some that we got to see behind the scenes, but that weren't quite shown, was that Ryoma was also very oppressive in the laning phase. His forward percentage past that midway point of mid lane was, again, similar to what Ryoma was able to accomplish and what Stixxay rather was able to accomplish down in the bot lane. Very oppressive against the Corki. Now we see Jinx first pick come through. Very happy with this. Have to see if Stixxay responds with his Ezreal in kind as the sort of answer here. Incredibly comfortable on that pick.
No way, no way. Whoa. I saw him hover it and I was like, now we're just waiting for the Jhin, aren't we? Holy moly, this is war in the bot side. As Wildcard used their first pick as a sort of pseudo fourth ban and also amazing pickup for themselves. Kalista is not something that you are ready to play against. I can only assume, unless some crazy stuff has been happening in scrims, Golden Guardians are about to show us something that Wildcard are going to have to adapt to on the fly, and we're seeing that right now as they're like, what on earth do we pick next?
So already we are seeing Golden Guardians say if we don't win within the first 15 to 20 minutes, this game becomes incredibly difficult for us. The Kalista, not a champion that scales particularly well at all, so we do have to bear that in mind as we get later and later into the game. Golden Guardians actually, now believe it or not, have a Yasuo angle here. They've locked up the Diana, so if Ryoma wants to style on Yasuo, this is something that they can do very easily. Of course, blinding that maybe a little bit early on, but if the composition fits, he's got R5 to do so. We'll have to wait and see. Bot lane picked up for Wildcard, so this could just be a support matchup, and I expect it to be something like the Nautilus, like the Leona coming through here. Instead, I'm entirely wrong, and they're going to lock up a top laner, but now Wildcard have this opportunity to get rid of some really rough support matchups here. Kalista wants something to be aggressive, to get those kills early on in the bot lane, so taking away some of those supports from Golden Guardians Academy certainly should be their goal.
Yeah, so I wonder why Golden Guardians have gone with this in this particular case, because they've got the Renekton, they've got a relatively strong side top. Is this because they don't want a nice support matchup into the Jinx, or because they want the counter? What's the play here that makes them pull out the Renekton now of all times?
I think this is just saying that if we give Tony top Renekton, he feels comfortable on this. We can target 2 bans at the top lane, that we can focus all our attention down into the bot side of Summoner's Rift, sort of a weak side winning lane for Tony top, if anything. They also have the option of just diving top lane on repeat here. Diana and X in an incredibly lethal duo, regardless of what Alorum tries to try and pull out in this top side. And Wildcard, I say they've got a Yasuo angle. It gets banned. Very happy to see that one hit the table. So they're recognizing it as much as I am. But yeah, Golden Guardians, they're sort of hammering down on the fact that they've got a very strong top side right now. The Poppy taken away from Alorum. I highlighted his 2 picks at the start of the day. Poppy and Urgot, they've been banned out.
Yeah, and very, very nicely so as well, especially if Golden Guardians are trying to do what you talked about and use this Renekton as a stable top laner. A Bard being hovered here, though, could change everything, as, of course, this will unlock a lot of roaming potential from the bot side, and I'm glad to see them pivot away from it, because I want to see bot lane explode in blood, and Bard would feel more like a mid lane angle.
Bard feels more like we're weak-siding Kalista, and that's not something that I'm going to particularly get on board with without too much convincing. But now Rakan comes through, obviously going to be looking to get those engages onto Manui. Positioning going to need to be very cognizant for him. Now, what is the blind pick in the mid lane for Wildcard? What does Strumpist feel comfortable going with here? His Rise is still available. Would set up Wildcard for a really strong team fighting composition. We've got that tank in the front line to be that present threat that Kalista is going to have a horrible time dealing with. Azir exists as well here, if he fancies blinding that one. But obviously has to be careful that he has to go up against Diana and Rakan. Vex up against Dive, a very, very strong champion. That personal space can cause really big disruption if Golden Guardians Academy get too aggressive.
That is very, very smart pickup here from Wildcard, and as Golden Guardians consider their last selection, it'll have to be something that feels comfortable into the Vex, and the Corki does fit that bill, but doesn't really build on what Golden Guardians already have, instead providing them a little bit of insurance policy for the late game. Corki is absolutely going to be fine at that point, and will provide a lot of damage through the auto attacks as Kallista's starts to fall off.
Damage profile for Golden Guardians really nice as well. They've got double AD, double AP from their carry sources. It makes Alorum's job just that little bit more difficult when trying to itemize his resistances. And obviously, as you mentioned, getting later on into the game, the Corki shouldn't have too much of a difficult time trying to cut through Alorum. The leading concern is going to be if that Alorum Griffin combo can really strike at the back lines of Golden Guardians Academy, or if it is going to be this Diana Rakan diving duo that can really punish Manui within an instant. You can see in the summoner spells as well. Manui takes the exhaust here. I think the exhaust versus Diana is mandatory and certainly should be taken. So it's good to see that Manui picking up his recognizing that at the very least. It also creates a large outplay possibility down in the bot side of the map. If we get into these 2 versus 2s, exhaust timing from Manui is going to be crucial. If he's able to exhaust the Rend pop from Stixxay, that is what we're looking for to alleviate the majority of this Kallista's damage in the early stages. If it's off just those first couple stacks, Kalista just ramps up and the 2v2 can go very quickly, very poorly.
There was actually a very fast summoner change up here as well, right at the very last second. No, Stixxay ended up going for the cleanse, which I think is actually a pretty nice thing to have in this particular game, in this particular matchup, and in this particular place that Golden Guardians have put him in, having to be this Kalista that does want to get a little bit closer than a lot more AD carries would be comfortable with. I love it for Stixxay, but the cleanse will give him a lot more safety than he would otherwise have, and accentuate what we already know is strong about Stixxay, and that is the positioning that he can play with.
And I think that Cleanse, particularly on Kalista, above all other AD carries, just has that much more presence, because Kalista isn't just CC'd, or isn't just slowed by slows. Her attack speed also gets reduced because of the way Martial Poise works. If you even get tagged up by, things like the Flay that can ruin your attack speed a little bit here, those little instances where you want to have that QSS, that cleanse, certainly going to be very, very, very useful to you. My slight concern is that there are still a couple knockups, a few things that you can't quite cleanse, things like Alorum with that Call the Forge, got the Searing Charge onto terrain as well. If Stixxay is caught out by that cleanse is going to be next to useless, and Flash is going to need to be expended. So we'll have to wait and see if that is played, or if they're playing with that in mind. Of course, we've talked about the power of Cleanse, particularly versus a Vex as well. If she gets that dive onto you, that instant fear can certainly spell doom for any rogue AD carry in the backline. But as we think, we've just got a little brief in-game pause to start us off with the wildcard composition here. I want to quickly touch on once again. Incredibly good team fighting throughout the game. They've got this Griffin, Viego early on, along with Strompist around that one item, the mid-game spike. Certainly very palpable for Wildcard. They will be able to take those fights nice and early with that insurance policy of Manui later on. What Golden Guardians Academy, they've got the same sort of thing. They've got a really strong bot lane, a really strong Kalista that can go off in the early stages, along with Tony Top on the Renekton to hopefully be that frontline source of damage as well as that front line to protect Stixxay a little bit. But then they've got that late game power up of Ryoma. So both of these teams have got some early game power in one side of Summoner's Rift, and then as they start to drop off, another area of the map starts to pick up here. A really nice bell curve across both squads.
Yeah, I like the way that we've dialed in on this. The spearheads of the composition, if you will, coming from the bot lane for Golden Guardians and from that mid-jungle duo for Wildcard. And specifically when it comes to the mid-jungle duo of Wildcard, I am very excited to see how it pans out, because I still want to see Griffin and Strompist collaborate more. We already know these are extraordinarily strong players, but for the most part, Wildcard have been defined by a little bit more of separate game plans. I talked about this a little bit going into game one, and while game one did offer them some opportunities to work together, this is the Rude Dude brush. We have to talk about it. Manui, he smells it out. He's like, Rude Dude's probably talking about me right now. I should move.
You know, the Rude Dude tri-brush, exactly. For those of you that don't know, for perfect vision as an AD carrier, whoever wants to go down to this bot side brush, you want to dabble your toes in the river so that you can get the information in time. Otherwise, things like that Chime Roam can catch you off guard, and sometimes you have to burn the flash. The same goes for top lane as well. You don't want to sit in the tri-brush. You want to ward it and walk back, or go and put your feet in the river and get the best information. So really nicely done by Wildcard. They haven't been caught out. Minui's been listening, of course, but now they could be caught out by a potential level 1. Of course, we're expecting this to be very Golden Guardians oriented. If they get a double knock-up and the Hail of Blades as well for Stixxay, an incredible laning route.
Pacus moving his way forward, seeing if maybe he wants to try and take the trade earlier. I would heavily discourage him from doing. However, it's worth noting that while we've got the bot lane 2v2, it can very quickly turn into a 3v3 later on. Both junglers starting up towards the top side. Will they make it here in time? However, Exhaust already gone down. Cleanse already gone down. And Manui already sub 100 HP. Let's go.
There we go. You see, you cleanse away from the Exhaust as well. It's a really good summon as well to disengage from that. But equally, as soon as that rend comes down, the Exhaust timing just a little bit off right there. A big chunk of HP goes through. And of course, Manui now pretty much out of this lane for the time being. All 3 potions off that longsword have been sipped through. And he's still at sub 400 HP right now, where Stixxay, along with the sustain from the Gleaming Quill, still got an extra potion in his back pocket and much higher health pool.
Already a bit of vision as well to keep Golden Guardians safe has been placed inside of the river. But importantly, Griffin isn't being tracked as meticulously as they were inside of game 1. So Golden Guardians still largely operating at a loss in data until, of course, Griffin potentially shows on this ward. Now, popping in here. I don't actually believe he was spotted just yet, but now they definitely know what is up, and Golden Guardians should be able to get out of this pretty darn easily. Dipping and diving. Chime ends up getting away, and it really doesn't cost Golden Guardians too much.
No, exactly. They maybe forced off this wave a little bit. Now we can see Iconic moving his way down to just Shadow, if anything was to go along. But with pressure in both bot and mid lane, Golden Guardians Academy Jungle may well be able to complete the jungle dream of Season 11 in a double crab and get himself back off to the races. Of course, we did see Griffin skip a couple of camps on his bot side to go for that gank once again here, and now making the rounds through his bot side jungle.
Stixxay.
All right. Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay.
No,
I mean, currently not false.
Yeah.
Apart from the OQs.
That's true. Well, we don't talk about the OQs. We let those be. I like the confidence from Stixxay, and it's definitely showing itself in the lane. The timing on the graphic was just so perfect as well. But as Griffin makes his return, perhaps it will become a little bit untrue. Both Chime and Stixxay going to be caught by this engage, and now without a whole lot of disengage options, Griffin gonna flash on top of Chime, likely taking him down. The rend not quite killing this Griffin. Instead, he's going to mean that Stixxay gets out. Not having found himself anything, he'll be thinking about going back over. Surely Griffin survives. Whew.
One more auto there from Stixay would have actually sealed the deal and may have given Chime the way out as well. A little bit of hesitation on whether or not they had the timing to go for it. It does cost Golden Guardians. But once again here, it's them. It's the Wildcard squad prioritizing a little bit of funneling down into their bot lane, making sure that Minui and Pocus are not so shoehorned under their turret for the duration of the laning phase and trying to alleviate some of that pressure that has been put down by Chime and Stixay.
Oh my lord, speaking of pressure, it just continues. The hook does land, however, onto Stixay. That spells the end of the play. You see he and Chime walking back underneath the tower, recognizing that, yeah, well, it's all been good fun, but it's time to pick up the gold now. As the reset comes in from the bot lane, the real thing that I'm looking forward to is the impact of the bot lane play into the rest of the map, because Griffin was the one who walked away with that cool kill. That was a cool kill. He's going to be the one that is able to spread most of that advantage for Wildcard, and it is the earliest they've gotten off to an advantage so far in the series.
Yeah, is now tasked with spreading that gold along Summoner's Rift. I want to quickly touch on Minui's purchase here. The tier 2 boots is incredibly wise versus a Kalista lane. You know that Kalista is going to prioritize getting those tier 2 boots ASAP. So you matching movement speed, matching the attack speed as well is a sort of compensation. Is incredibly smart. He's able to keep that distance at best as possible. If Stixay finds that engaged, it's not going to be too easy for him to stick to the Jinx.
Even in items on the south end of the rift is Stixay slowly but surely, I believe, returning to lane, potentially walking over in towards this dragon, and I gotta know, what is Sour Pat? What is a Sour
They picked the
Patch
wrong
Watermelon?
two casters. They picked the wrong two casters here to talk about NA snacks, haven't they?
Yeah. I've been canon. I'm like, is it coffee crunch? What's happening here? What sort of candy? What sort of candy is your gamer snacker, dude?
I go for chocolate. Honestly, I don't have a gamer snack.
Well, I mean, don't you have unique chocolate in you? Isn't that a thing?
Like we have Cadbury's.
That one.
You know, it's just a brand of plain chocolate.
Oh lord! Wait, level 6 in mid lane. Strombest might actually be able to engage this, but he doesn't go for it. Instead, using the personal space to get a little bit more personal income. Stixay burning the cleanse, and oh my lord, surviving just barely off that Guardian proc. Chime keeps him alive, but this is not the bot lane that Golden Guardians were dreaming of.
No, this is incredibly impactful for Wildcard because this is essentially that early game end of the bell curve for Golden Guardians being put into the dirt right here. We're looking more at the top side for Tony Top to be the other end for Golden Guardians, but Alorim, as we know, as we expect, been incredibly safe on this top side, being incredibly sustainable as well, and is currently out in front in CS, right? The lead is not tremendous. It's by no means like game winning in the top lane in terms of an advantage, but it's enough to have mitigated what Golden Guardians wanted to do with that R3 pick.
Oh, just showing a little bit too quickly there. Iconic actually had an angle where he could have gone, again, Allura misstepped, but the discipline from this top laner on Wildcard has been something to behold. Having shown up towards the top side, I think he's equally as lucky that Dragon doesn't get stolen away, especially because this is an Infernal that has spawned first on the Rift, and as we're approaching 8 minutes, it's likely going to end up being a trade between that and Rift Herald.
And once again, with no Drake taken, it's actually going to be a little bit different in terms of how the sort of champion's going to maneuver around the map. Already, Golden Guardian's bot lane a little bit late to this play. Pocus.
Flash available for Ryoma off the hook, and likely be forced here, but the flash from Strompest keeps it from happening. Just like that, Ryoma goes down, and it's Strompest and Pocus that work really well together, interestingly enough.
Absolutely beautiful from Strompest right there. It's Pocus winding up the hook and Ryoma's waiting to flash it, but the flash fear from Strompest before the hook's about to connect and before the flash timing comes through catches Ryoma off guard. Very well played. No flash to safety, no escape for the Corki in the mid lane.
Turns into a very easy Rift Herald for Wildcard as well, having rotated up their bot lane. They might even transfer this into a little bit of an advantage up towards the top side, where Tony Top will have a lot more difficult of a time going 2v1. Crucially, this provides some alone time to Stixay, but I'm just not sure whether it's going to be worth it or not. A lot of tower plates going to be collected towards this southern side, and hopefully an Infernal Dragon to keep Golden Guardians in the game.
Yeah, we've split the map right now. Wildcard Gaming are focusing heavily on this top side. Interestingly enough, Herald doesn't go down in the top lane, and It's going to be the brute force of Manui and Parkus to see if they can get away with it. Ryoma looking to make a roam down to this bot side, but hasn't quite found the angle yet. Now we're going to have a 4v3 potentially down bot lane.
Thank God that Alarm checks this, because otherwise he certainly would have died, and even still, it is getting dangerous. Call the Forge God, going to knock up 2, however, and Griffin could commit. In comes the package, however, as Ryoma starts shredding those resistances that Alarm, I will say, has a lot of. And ultimately, Golden Guardians, just to get to crash an additional wave, might get to grab an additional plate on their way out. But for the most part, I would say largely invest a lot to not gain too much on the bot side.
They're going to be able to keep getting these turret plates, and whilst Golden Guardians are expending all this time on the bot side, Tony Top on the top side is actually absolutely fine here. He can very easily clear the wave with a slice in, call the meek, and then dice it back out. Shouldn't be too difficult for him to get rid of it, and particularly when Parkus and Manui find themselves back in mid lane. It looks like Wildcard with an early investment into taking down this mid-tier 1, taking down the Corki's bastion of safety. Certainly could be a route to open them up for the mid game.
This will chunk it out, but it really is exactly what you're talking about, investment. It's not a straight up purchase of the mid lane tower territory, as they will have to return to that lane, and in the meantime, though it does net them a little bit of gold, the actual pressure isn't immediate, and the gold isn't nearly as much as first tower would be either. Stixay still continuing to farm up, does have first tower available to him. Ryoma getting hooked this time, and not as concerned about it now. Will get the chance to reset and hopefully pick himself up a little bit more of an item.
And a chance to be concerned about getting hit by hooks will come later on as well. Certainly, the later this game goes, the more impactful we're expecting those death sentences to. Parkus so far had a very good game. 1-0, one part of both of the kills on the map. The only one on his team to hold that record. So certainly making his presence felt, and particularly when we were expecting this bot lane to be an area of Golden Guardians Academy squad that was very much winning in these early stages. Good to see that Parkus has still found his way out onto Summoner's Rift to an advantageous state. But all of these trades, everything that's happened on the map, Stixay still out in front in terms of that CS and gold. Parkus tries to fight forward and doesn't quite look for that hook yet.
There's a world not too far away where Stixay gets first tower, and in such a world, I would very much start, let's say, being concerned about the rotation up towards the top side. A very confident dodge on the death sentence, I might add, only increases my confidence. However, with Manui having plenty of mana and a Griffin to back him up, first tower not going to be nearly in danger of falling just yet. It's more about the continued pressure the Golden Guardians are now bringing back into this bot lane. Iconic, ready to fight, even in levels with Griffin as of right now, and Stixay, I would say, he's still likely itching for one himself. We'll probably have to wait until his first item for this one to come to fruition.
Iconic looking for the play, but not gonna find it just yet. 2 kills for Wildcard, but the gold lead 200. If we take a look at the CS numbers.
Oh no, Iconic, he has been caught out, does manage to sidestep the death sentence, and the charm's going to come in, but Pocket ends up showing golden for now. No knockup available. Iconic committing for it. Shadow Surge not going to come in just yet, but the personal space ever on time does end up claiming a kill right back in. Wildcard are running over this fight as Manui and Griffin join up, and Golden Guardians, they commit too far forward, they wait too long, and they lose 4 members, Rudude.
Manui here on the backline, able to come in and clean up. Wildcard find themselves the fight, and just in an instant from 200 to 1,200. It is the Wildcard squad who find themselves the fight. The turret's still standing, and plates mean that it is very unlikely that this turret is going to fall in the mid lane. Chime may well look to try and have something to say about this. This is an engage that looks like it's going one way, then the other, and then immediately back into Wildcard's favour. It's Iconic that goes searching, and you'll see it in a couple of seconds. A well-timed stopwatch, actually, from Parkus stops him from getting knocked up, and all of that front-loaded damage not quite going to come through. They pile so much in onto this Thresh that as soon as Manui comes on over, he's able to just free hit from the backline. Flame Chompers find Stixay. That is one, and Griffin as well, getting reset after reset on this Viego. Really not too worried about finding those fights. And once again, another well-timed flash. Ryoma's waiting to flash that wall on the top side of the brush, but with Griffin following up with his own, timing once again just not there.
It's a league of Ryoma not being able to use his summoners, it looks like, because unfortunately does end up meeting his end there. Still, keeping within touching distance of the gold. Golden Guardians aren't out of this yet, but like we talked about a little bit earlier, Rudude, it is about that early game that is starting to come to a close. This first tower being picked up by them at long last does put them now within a mere 300 gold, but even games just isn't where they are happy. And the reset now couldn't come at a better time, especially because that second dragon, another potential avenue for Golden Guardians to pull ahead, is spawning in just 30 seconds.
We have to see where their priority is going to be placed here. They have second Drift Herald as well, also spawning, so both of these objectives should be fairly sought after. And as we get another insight into Alorim here, how does he focus before a match? Well, listen to Purple Rain by Prince.
It's actually a pretty good choice, honestly. Prince
is this a pop culture reference that you know?
Is Prince pop culture still?
Well, maybe not, but...
I don't know, my father showed me Prince, so yes.
For reference, Dia asked me the other day, he saw a photo of Billie Eilish and had to confirm with me that it was Billie Eilish.
I don't know. It's
could have been anyone.
I don't feel I don't feel like
embarrassed.
I don't feel like me talking about this is going to make it any better. So I'm just going to accept that yes, that did happen, and we'll hope that my reputation can one day recover. Right now, Golden Guardians trying to make a recovery themselves. They're setting up a Dragon play. Strumpist, however, already having burned the personal space. He could go down right here, instantly cutting the fight in half. Ryoma lays down the package, going Golden, does Iconic, and Stixay is chasing down Manui on the side. Tony Top contributing to it as well, and into the meat grinder of Golden Guardians. Go Wildcard this time around, and it is going to be the opposite fate that Golden Guardians come out with this time, collecting themselves 4 and maybe even 5 kills if Tony Top got lucky.
Alorim forced to flash, but ultimately 4 for 0 here. Golden Guardians collect themselves the Drake, the kills, and all of a sudden the gold lead right back in their favour. They prioritise this bot side of Summoner's Rift. They set themselves up in the river and are able to more than handily take the fight here. Take a look at this replay and Ryoma's package in particular. It looks good to start it off, but then look at Wildcard. We W onto it from Viego, we cook into it, and they're just getting absolutely melted. The damage comes through, Tony Top's able to find one more, and an aggressive flash from Stixay seals Minui's fate. And yeah, Lauren's able to walk away, but at this point the fight is more than already over.
Simply a Ryoma diff right now in the mid-game fights, I gotta say. Just calling that out. It's been 2 games in a row that Ryoma has managed to find crucial cooldowns to critically misposition Wildcard, or rather force mispositions from Wildcard, and a lot of damage on top of it. I'm not sure whether it's enough to put Golden Guardians in a comfortable scenario right now, as 3,000 gold at the 17-minute mark still is something that they can work with. However, it is the first gold advantage that Golden Guardians have gotten off to, and it is off the back of an incredible play over by the Dragon that also got them that second Drake stacking.
Now, of course, for Wildcard, it's not all doom and gloom here by any means. They still have this late game scaling of a Jinx that can really tear through your team if given the opportunity. But all of the investment from Wildcard early on to be down at 17.5 minutes by basically a full item in your AD carries is the exact opposite of what you wanted to see. Stixay and Chime had a really tough time of things down in the bot lane, but they've been able to absorb that pressure and have come out absolutely fighting strong. 2 items now on the Kalista is the peak here of Kalista Gaming. This is as strong as you get. Runance as a 3rd item or your Zeal item is nice, but your single target DPS here is pretty much unparalleled by any AD carry at this stage in the game. So again, the goal now for Golden Guardians is to force this lead. They've got their foot on the throat. What they need to do now is force it down and really take this game by storm, because as we mentioned, their composition, not the greatest. The later we go.
Herald, a great way to start. This even better. Strompest. For him, it is all doom and gloom. And the pun very much intended, Rudude, as he ends up going down in the top side. Griffin having to get the heck out of dodge up towards the top, ends up flashing away as well. Wildcard retreating hastily out of this tower, the tier 1 that falls before Shelly even gets a crack at it. Moving in towards the tier 2. Golden Guardians don't have to give up a fight just yet. They're still operating at a numbers advantage.
Yeah, and you know, Strompest has TP, so there's an opportunity now for a flank. You'll look at the wards behind Golden Guardians on the top side, but they're just going to brute force this turret down and maybe even go for a little bit extra. The TP would be incredibly ambitious right now, since The rest of Wildcard in absolutely no position to follow on up, and look at the zombie wards just dotted around the topside jungle. It's another Chemtech Rift as well, dear. Chemtech. So that means that, once again, vision incredibly hard to come by here for Wildcard.
Yeah, vision control always going to be rough on the setup in these Chemtech little shadow areas, because it does keep you from being able to use your green wards reliably. A lot of that emphasis placed on pink wards. Wildcard, however, undeterred by this, have decided they want to play things in the lane, and honestly, I cannot blame them, because Shine is not the turret defense that you dreamed of on Golden Guardians. However, now that he's got some backup, things might just change. Still looking for the engage. Tony Top pops that dominus, and Wildcard hastily on the retreat. Have Ryoma once again cutting them off. Baka's taking a bunch of damage as Griffin is already well and truly dead. Ends up as a double, and honestly, likely a Baron for Golden Guardians, because 20 minutes just crested itself, and they killed the jungler and the support.
Why not? Let's keep going here. This is even the poke-style build from Ryoma, so his rocket's dealing an incredibly large amount of damage. His auto attack's not quite so much, but you got to see it firsthand here. It doesn't matter. It still hurts. This at Corki in the mid-game. And Wildcard, they're going to use Strumpus to collect an objective bounty on the bot side of the map. I doubt this second turret is going to be able to be felled. But Golden Guardians, I asked them, could they put their foot on the throat and force? They have done exactly that right here. About the best way to try and close out a game is getting that Baron. They're 30 seconds away from Soul Point as well. They pick that one up. I can see this game being wrapped up, done and dusted very swiftly. If Wildcard Gaming have nothing to say about it.
I need to be held, because I'm absolutely terrified of the idea that Kalista could be running around with a Chemtech Soul as well. I just thought of that, and it was absolutely terrifying. I see no worse thing, but okay. Stixay, actually pretty fast fingers on that cleanse for how unexpectedly it happened.
I mean, it's a good cooldown forced, but...
And Pockets not quite able to get away from it this time. Stormpest already having extended the personal space, going to go golden to try and buy himself a little bit more time, but Manui has carelessly exposed himself and ends up running away from Stixay as Stormpest goes down to the combination of Chime, Ryoma, and Iconic. Chime is going to continue to zone out Griffin. In the meantime, join up with Tony Top to give him a little bit more safety. Flashing away on the Renekton. Stixay instead chasing your jungler down underneath the tower as Griffin explodes as a haystack would full of spears. Alorum and Manui in a lot more trouble than they recognize, and Iconic cannot be bothered to join up with any of this because his team really is winning the fight, and he can take the dragon.
Me jungle, me take objective. Drake Soul Point now goes to Golden Guardians Academy. Tier 2 turret as well, and Stixay charging forward. Needs to be careful here. No cleanse, no flash. The slow comes through. TP now behind.
Teleport. You could actually kill him here, as Strawpest is going to have an easy way of fearing this Kalista and taking her down. A very large shutdown goes over to Wildcard, but it's on Alorum of all people. Not a way to turn their team fights around, although it will give them, I will say, Rudude, a little bit more tankiness in the front line if they ever get to fight a front-to-back way that they want to.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that... Sorry, I just saw one rocket there from Ryoma. Absolutely dismantle Pox's HP, and you know, you got chills from the Chemtech, all I got chills from one Corki rocket right there. You need to see it in action. One big one from this build is liable to 80% HP Manui, and I'm not kidding. If this Ravenous gets finished up in fairly swift order, this is going to be a terrifying Corki to play against. I think he's doing his rounds of the jungle camps to make sure that he's got his gold now to finish off that item in due time here, because they've still got the Baron, right? What have they done to break down structures? Ultimately, it's been a mid-tier 2 so far, and they're going to put on their final assault with this particular Baron. They've got 20 seconds left on it. I don't think they're going to be able to get too much more, but at this point, they're already so far ahead that that's not particularly important. They've got a nice sort of segue into this bot side of the map. One very easy turret to take down because Tony Top can wrap around this backside, and you can force that dive incredibly easily just with the nature of the terrain. And Golden Guardians just sort of playing with their food a little bit here as Stixay roaming up to take kills over objectives.
I don't think they can afford to play too much, though. I mean, they are in a massive lead right now, but Manui, almost getting out alive, isn't actually going to go down just yet. Instead, it's Strumpest that comes in to combo with Griffin, taking down Ryoma, and maybe just turning this fight around. Griffin picking up a second kill on top of Chime, gets another reset. Stixay isolated and alone. This is exactly why you had to be careful as Golden Guardians. Playing with your food can result in your food biting back, and Wildcard retake a lot of their lost momentum and now can turn that into who knows what.
Absolutely massive play here. They stifle the Baron push, they keep their base intact, and they get kills on two very important members here. They get the shutdown gold, I think, across on to Griffin. Unfortunately, we did see, I think, Pockers take one of them, but it was a stolen away Rakan that Griffin actually able to pick up a swift kill. So again, really nice play by Wildcard. They were able to force out their waves, put them into slightly more manageable positions. You know, he does need to be careful. Doesn't want to be trifling with Tony Top in that 1v1. Death Dance against this composition as well. Going to have its very fair share of benefits.
I gotta say that right now is honestly a very telling point in the game. This is the start of what could be a massive comeback for Wildcard. As we're approaching that 25-minute mark, late game is going to start to come online as the next couple items roll in for Manui. Especially the fact that he's able to live here, absolutely massive. But the fact that Golden Guardians lose the fight is terrifying.
Plus 850 there to Griffin, and he's able to take down, yeah, I think that's the triple at the back end of this. So again, really, well, a lot of gold going into Griffin. That's something that they're going to need to be cognizant of, and ultimately it was a slight grief, I suppose, by Iconic not quite finding the solo into the Jinx, which should have easily came through, honestly. I had the E-reset ready and available, but didn't want to commit it, because he wanted to, keep hold of it, make sure that he was going to be able to maybe try and find a bit of an extended fight, but missing out on that assassination actually really cost them in the fight, and could be the price that ends up costing Golden Guardians at least a chance in this match.
Yeah, for Ryoma, there we go, does get knocked up here, and Griffin already with that triple kill on top of him is terrifying. Gets Heartbreakered on as well, but Ryoma is outlasting, and Tony Top now separating the fight himself is going to bring that personal space right into the mouth of Stixay, turning things around though with these auto attacks. No Immortal Shield will pop just yet. Stixay still got the chance to turn things over, and Ryoma constantly throwing those rockets in as well, pushes Wildcard back. Wildcard lose one and go, fine, we don't need to fight this right now, we'll do it another time.
Yeah, but another time is in about 30 seconds here. Stompist is going to be coming up in time with that Dragon. Unleashed Teleport is going to get him out onto the map. But look at the timing here of the Rift, or of the final Dragon, I would imagine. Golden Guardians, they've got Soul Point here. If they just stack this one up, Rend plus Smite is a lethal combo for trying to take down these objectives. Ryoma goes back to base, picks up the package, TP's back in. This team fight should be very Golden Guardians favoured, and he's even found a flying angle behind the team.
He's not even spotted. This is absolutely deadly, and it's just going to result in Griffin being picked off more than likely. Package not even invested to find out with the jungler down, and now with the full send of the package in, Ryoma splits everybody up, and even may actually survive here as that final auto is going to land onto Pockets. Strumpist comes in to clean him up, but it is a small reward as Lorem explodes once again, leaving Golden Guardians with the chance to pick up that Chemtech Soul, and Tony, plenty of time to play with Strumpist up towards his side of the map.
A willing time to play with your food right here. Strumpist going to be able to maybe kite this out for a fair while, but ultimately Tony Top will be able to whittle him down, take him out as well. Drinker to finish off the job, and a slightly delayed death time is actually going to cost Wildcard quite considerably here. There would have been potential chance as 4 or 5 members to make their way over to this Baron and potentially try to stop it. Instead, an extra 20 seconds on Strumpist with no TP means that this Baron is absolutely gonzo. Golden Guardians Academy collecting the Chemtech Soul, now the Baron, the fight on top of that. Barring any acts of miracles from Griffin, and this should be a fairly easy pick-up. Remember, Render plus Smite, not too easy to get past.
Griffin's going to have to start turning bread and fish into a lot more than it is right now. Everybody going to get those Baron-empowered recalls, move their way back into the base. And Golden Guardians can set up for that final push. Chemtech Soul at their backs. Stixay and Ryoma still riding the high of mid-game, and Ryoma picking up into that late game as well. We're going to take a look at that fight one more time as Ryoma didn't even have to use the package, but look at the way that it splits the fight afterwards.
Yeah, Griffin gets taken down very quickly. Exhaust expended, and they all tunnel onto this Corki. They know he's a big threat, but Manui sort of caring not for his positioning relative to the rest of Golden Guardian. Stixay, who we packed up this entire game as Iconic.
That was a pretty cool Shadow Surge. Iconic actually might go down here. Gets
the
the healing just in time. No, he actually survived. Used the Zanyas as well. With Tony Top now entering the fray, he may go down, but remember, he's got a whole second of life ahead of them. And Stixay coming in from the side, absolutely absolutely deletes Strompest. Is going to be chasing down Pakas as well, and as the Thresh just meets his end in mid-air, the Spirit of Vengeance is strong with Stixxay, taking revenge for that early game and moving Golden Guardians to what should be their second win in this best of 3 and qualification for those playoffs at Unified. Only Alorum stands in their way, and tanky though he may be, he has absolutely nothing to say when challenged by Golden Guardians here. Ryoma, Shime, and Stixxay all having their time with him. As the base ends up going down, the Nexus under fire, and Golden Guardians qualify themselves.
2-0 here, Wildcard Gaming fall, and there we go. The return to form that Golden Guardians Academy would have wanted. You called it at the top of the day, dear. It was going to be a 2-0 either way, and Golden Guardians the ones that do take it home for themselves off the back of a incredibly well-maintained Kalista bot lane. Honestly, we saw it in the draft and kind of thought, whoa, this is going to make or break the game. Unfortunately for Golden Guardians, it did indeed make it. We can shout out Ryoma once again for incredible mid-game team fighting on this Corki, using that package to an exquisite taste and getting those fights exactly how Golden Guardians would have wanted them.
It is insane that Ryoma was able to replicate that twice in a row. We called it out in the middle of the game, but it's something about the team fights and around that 15-minute mark that just gets Ryoma's blood boiling, clearly. I can't wait to hear what our analysts have to say about that. But of course, before we hear what the big brains on the other side of this have to offer, we've got to take a very short break. So Rude and I will say goodbye, and on the other side, Travesty will greet you.
On back to the Proving Ground Circuit qualifier here, as we have Stixxay, the marksman who is breaking out the Kalista right off the get-go in game number 2. How are you doing, man?
I don't hear you at all.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, there it is. So, what I was saying is you just came off of a big game with the Kalista and whatnot. I know a lot of people were looking, had the eyeballs a little bit wider than normal when they got to see the Kalista locked in. How's it feeling going into this game and getting to pull out the power pick like that?
Pretty good. I haven't played the champion in a long time, but Kalista is one of those champs that I'm always comfortable on, so I'm always down to just pull it out. I kind of know, just based off of how the other amateur teams have been drafting versus us, that they kind of just try to pinch a lot of the AD picks. So yeah, in this game I knew that they were going to pick Jinx, and I just told my team that I can just pick Kalista and it'll be fine.
Yeah, we were talking about it, and I was just like, I can't remember the last time I saw a Kalista, but I was like, you know what, Stixxay, he's got it. He knows it. He knows how to pilot that champion. Yeah. Real quick, before we go too much into the details here of how that match went on, there was something that popped up on our screen. You had a question that you were asked, and you said, who is somebody you could beat? And you said everyone, just straight up. Is that the confidence that you had like before coming into this event? Just like, yeah, no, it's Stixxay, I got this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think I'm always a player like that, where I just feel like going into any match, any tournament, I can always win if I just play my best, right? I think like at a peak level, I can always beat anyone. I think that's a good mindset to have too.
I love it. I love the confidence. Absolutely on that. And you were starting up as the coach for this squad, so you've had to come in, play the AD carry role. How has it been adjusting to going from being a player to a coach, and now you're back into playing, especially since you're playing in like 3 different leagues now?
Yeah, it was a little weird for me. I obviously like wasn't expecting to be really playing it all, so I was almost shifted out of like my super competitive mindset of like grinding mega hard every day, and I was kind of shifting more to just watching a lot of VODs, just trying to learn as much as I could just to help the main team, mainly I guess help Loss improve his play. And then I was given the opportunity to not only play lock-in, but play this amateur tournament and like the beginning of academy stuff, just due to some visa issues that we had. So I just figured, like, you know, why not? Like, what's the downside? I'll take it and see what I can do with it. And yeah, so far it's been really fun. I think I played with a couple of the guys last year too, so nothing too new for me. But yeah, I think we're progressing really fast.
Yeah. And I think the results say just that. After some big carry performances from you inside this series, what do you feel like the future goal is for Golden Guardians? Is there any team out there that you're particularly looking forward to facing?
Yeah, I think the obvious one is the 100 Thieves next team. They were the only team we lost to, I want to say, in I guess in the best of one series. So yeah, we're definitely looking to beat them. I think it's pretty clear that it's probably going to be us versus them in the finals. And yeah, I think we have a really good shot. I think we should have won our game versus them as well.
Get the run back. Let's get it going. That's what I like to see. That being said, before we end up sending it back over to our desk, Stitze, do you have anything to say to any Stitze fans out there or anybody who's cheering on Golden Guardians Academy, as you guys have been playing an insane amount of games in the past bit?
Yeah, no, we've definitely been playing a lot of games. Yeah, I mean, just cheer for us throughout all the leagues we're playing in. You'll probably see us a lot. So thank you, everyone who supports us.
All right. Well, thank you is garnered. With that being said, thank you, Stitze, for coming in here for the interview. We're going to go ahead and send it on back over to the desk here. And that being said, in an instant, I am joined here back again with Smets and Mura. Smets, Mura, we got to see some fantastic stuff there. Some words from Stitze of pure confidence as well.
Yeah.
He seemed
Yeah,
very
he-
straight-faced, yeah.
Yeah,
I like the confidence.
I liked it as well. He just carried the first game really hard and had some really confident plays as well. McCallista, the turret dive especially, I really enjoyed with the flash into the turret. So yeah, definitely some earned confidence there with the 2-0.
Yeah, I would definitely say it was earned, but now we got to get into the nitty-gritty of figuring out exactly how GGA picked up that dub, because Wildcard was looking good for a little bit there, man. Like, they were going in there, they were having some nice early leads for themselves in the early game, and then it all just kind of turned on its head.
Yeah. I especially like this first replay that we picked up as well for Wildcard. They had a really smart rotation. So firstly, they were able to take the Rift Herald after picking off Corki, and then we get to this replay, which we were initially concerned about. I know Muro was like, oh no, play safe top again.
Very good buffer by Alarum there, too.
Yeah, and then we have the Corki package come in. This is the first Corki package of the game, and with the rotation from Griffin and the mechanics that you just highlighted, Mura, they were able to survive this and actually play safe top lane. It's a miracle.
They stayed safe, and
Love to see
that worked
it.
out great. But that also being said, there was a lot of things that we were seeing from Golden Guardians that were a little bit of an issue. Some things that we highlighted at the very top of the hour with our show beforehand, where we were a little bit concerned of like synergy and how the calls were coming out. We do have a replay that kind of show an example of that, as we got to see a moment where a little bit disjointed, and that's where we kind of saw Wildcard taking an advantage.
Yeah, we've had some moments from Iconic and Ryoma specifically that definitely show that they are still a bit desynced. This one is an example where even though they're winning this game, and even though they had an advantage before this play, this can be really detrimental and it can put you in a really rough spot, because now they're overcommitting into the jungle on desynced cooldowns as well, and then Manui gets to get excited and clean up the rest of this fight with Griffin. So a really nice cleanup from Wildcard off of a punish on Golden Guardians jungler out of position.
Yeah, fantastic catch out, and those disjointed efforts though didn't last forever. We were looking at the game, and all of a sudden you blink and everything shifted tides. It was like one team fight happened and everything just blew apart from there. I believe we have a replay showing the moment that really led into Golden Guardians taking complete control over this, as they were able to make a good play for themselves that led into a Baron.
So, I think Golden Guardians comp is much easier to play for them, because it's a very linear comp. Everyone knows what they should be doing. Like, Corki is trying to play for poke and try to utilize package for engage along with Callisto ult as well as Rakan. And I think they have a very strong engage comp, and I think Blue Team's comp was not the greatest disengage comp. I don't think Vex is the best disengaging champion in the game alongside Viego. It can make it very hard for Jinx to play. Orin got a lot of cool ultimates off though. Love to see it.
Called the horn a couple times, you know. But yeah, I mean, it was a couple high moments that we got to see. Then we got to see what it looks like to be a champion that sees that side perspective of the package come in there. Terrifying, honestly. Never want to see that perspective again.
Yeah.
Not as a champion, that is terrifying to think about. But I mean, I really have to highlight Golden Guardians that again doing a fantastic job once they got into the mid game, and Stitze playing a very aggressive Callista, man.
Yeah. You can be aggressive when you have Corki Package. As it turns out, when Golden Guardians took team fights and they used Corki Package, they usually won them. And I think that we should all just use this as a lesson to acknowledge that Corki Package is just way too broken. This ability needs to be nerfed, please. Because this is a really big reason why this champion keeps getting picked.
True. Nerf corkscrew. Thank you.
Yes.
He's got a pretty good win rate for himself internationally, so it would make sense to see that happen. I'm sure some people are looking at nerfing the puppers there for Corki, see what they do there, and yeah, it's just a big game. But hey, that was a very impactful game. That means that it is going to be Wildcard taking on the winner of our Nets match here, which is going to be very exciting for us to look at.
Yeah. Congratulations to Golden Guardians as well, because they did just qualify for playoffs with that one, as first seed in the group, so really big.
Very big indeed. Could lead them into their future where they want to get their revenge, the salty run back against 100 Thieves Net, so we'll see if that happens. But with things to be excited about, we do have something unfortunate. We do have to say goodbye to our lovely guest, Mura. Is there anything... Where can everybody find you? What are you up to right now? Hit me up with it. What details you got for us? You got a fan base that's grown here on Academy Stream right now.
So, I just played solo queue till 8 a.m. last night. I'm just playing solo queue. Sometimes I'll just stream it for fun. You can find me at my Twitter. I think it's linked right here. And you could find my Twitch links and everything through that. But it was really fun being on the analyst desk. Analyst desk. It was really nice being on the analyst desk.
I agree.
Yes, we loved having you. Thank you so much. And with that being said, we are going to take ourselves a short break to get ourselves ready for our Nets series. So thank you, Tamara, and thank you to everybody. We will be right back after a short break.